edition of the On the Mic podcast, and it's not, your eyes are not deceiving you. I almost want to call her out and say it's been like a whole year. It's almost been a whole year, I think.
Yeah.
We were going to do it for every single pay-per-view last year. I failed. We failed. It screwed up. But first pay-per-view of 2024, she is back, the one and only Kelly Murphy of Sirius XM, back here on the On the Mic podcast to discuss all things UFC 297. Kelly, how are you?
I am so good. I really do think it's been a year because for some reason, and correct me if I'm wrong, I remember us doing one of these to preview the first pay-per-view of last year. We were pumped. We were like, you know what? We started off the year right. We're going to do this every single time. And then I don't think we ever did again. And you could say it's your fault. It's my fault. I'm the one that's always like, yeah, let's do this day. And then something comes up and it's a whole ordeal. But I feel like we're starting strong again.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no better. It's like a New Year's resolution. It's like we're
Hmm.
gonna do. Here's the thing, and I thought about it. I was like, maybe. I mean, you're obviously very busy. You're taking over Sirius XM. You're taking over New York City. So I was like, all right, she's a very busy woman. So I was like, you know what? Maybe not every pay-per-view, but let's try to get her in here every couple pay-per-views, and then maybe it'll be fine. Maybe it'll be fine. When Kelly can fit us in her schedule, she will do so. And that's how we're operating 2024 on this show.
Listen,
First,
if we're getting one done for this pay-per-view, which on paper isn't fantastic,
correct.
we can get them done more often.
Yes, I agree. But you're also going to them. You're running shows. You're doing. I mean,
Always something.
and there is always something. And before we like break down the card, for UFC 297, I just want to jump into it with this. Actually, the first time I'm even talking about it. From a writing standpoint, I am back in a small role with mixedmartialarts.com, and as long as they publish it, I will be having an article coming out this week with the 5 most intriguing storylines of 2024. And
Ooh.
without giving it all of it away, number one was this fight. It's the main event. It's Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis, and it's not anything more than, oh my God, this is a great fight. This is a great matchup. No. This is the first, like, that I can remember true rivalry that kind of clones or mirrors John Jones, Daniel Cormier. This isn't Connor and Nate going back and forth. They're going to shake up at the end. I legitimately think, and I wanted to get into this with you because you're way smarter than me. I legitimately think this could be both good and bad for the UFC.
Well, I think that was a big conversation to prior to Sean Strickland fighting Israel Adesanya. Is it a good thing or a bad thing for the UFC if Sean Strickland becomes your UFC middleweight champion? He certainly has a screw loose, like all fighters do to some extent for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But with Sean, you never know what's going to come out of his mouth on what platform, what he's going to put on Twitter. You just don't know. He becomes middleweight champion. It feels like things are fairly status quo, nothing out of the ordinary in Sean Strickland land until this Dricus du Plessis rivalry comes up. And it's already gotten pretty nasty. I read today Strickland said if du Plessis continues to bring up his past, he's going to stab him at the press
Yeah.
conference. Like, I, I don't
I
know. I don't know.
I think that's where I draw the line, right? Because
Sure.
listen, you can have, and I think, and this is kind of, I'm stealing exactly the words I wrote. This isn't Conor McGregor attacking a bus. This isn't Conor and Nate throwing water bottles at each other. This is a world-class champion going, I will stab my opponent. I will inflict serious body harm on my opponent before we fight. And I guess Sean said it on his podcast. He said, if he said, I messaged him, try to put water on the bridge, but I did tell him straight up, if he mentions basically my childhood, my upbringing again, if he mentions it again, I will stab him. And unfortunately, Kelly, I take him at his word. I
Well, Sean
take him at
Strickland
like,
stands on business. Like this man out
right.
here doing some crazy shit. So when he says that, it's hard not to take it at face value. And the last time these two were in close proximity of each other, they got into a brawl in the crowd at a UFC event. So all of the timeline and just knowing who you're dealing with, it's kind of hard not to believe that he means what he's saying. I don't know why he would say it and go into such detail about it.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not here to value one insult more than the other. We have heard guys like I mentioned, Conor McGregor say some terrible things. John Jones, Daniel Cormier have said some terrible things. People say terrible. Colby Covington has said the most terrible things, if you really want to put it all out there.
Yep.
But what Sean Strickland has said and what Dricus du Plessis has said, it's also very terrible. And then we have like a second side of this whole saga, which is, well, damn, I want to see Sean Strickland go batshit crazy in the lead up to this fight. And then if he wins, what's he going to do next? Because before we get into the fight and break down the main card, there's an interesting scenario here. You've got the guy who is so crazy that he's literally just one snap of the finger away from snapping. And that's Sean Strickland. And that's your middleweight champion. But so many fans, fight fans especially, can relate to that. Oh, this dude's crazy. You got to watch him fight. Yeah, that's fun until he stabs someone. Not saying that Sean Strickland would. But also, if you're the UFC, you're like, hey, remember that really bad moment we had last year with DDP and Israel Adesanya? Adesanya's been away for a while. If DDP could beat Sean Strickland, maybe we just bring Izzy back. So it's like, it's, in a weird way, I almost want to say it's lose-lose from a marketing standpoint. Because it's going to go from ugly to possibly uglier if Adesanya gets back involved. What do you think the UFC, where they stand on their own business with this? Because it's like, all right, we keep Sean Strickland or DDP's got to fight somebody.
Well, they're already there. You know what I mean? They've already been there since Sean Strickland beat Adesanya to become the middleweight champion. And now you have him fighting Dricus du Plessis, and we already know the build-up's been ugly. It's to be seen how ugly it's going to get. The press conference goes down Thursday night. And regardless of what happens on Saturday night, like you said, we'll get into it. I don't really see a scenario where the winner isn't fighting Israel Adesanya next. And as much of a loose cannon as Sean Strickland could be, I do think the buildup to an Adesanya du Plessis fight would be much uglier than an Adesanya Sean Strickland fight, because Izzy and Strickland have been in there together already. I do think there's a level of respect between the two. They went 5 rounds together. Strickland beat Adesanya for the title. I think there's a level of respect there. But with Adesanya and Dricus du Plessis, we've already seen just how ugly it could get very quickly. We've only gotten a fraction of it. Whereas I think if this fight gets announced, especially if it's the UFC 300 main event, we know that fight card still needs a main event. I think it could get pretty bad. I really do. And that's, I know it's crazy to say because I'm not even talking about Strickland as one half of that equation, because I do think it would be worse with Dracus in there.
Yeah, and listen, I think to a point, and this, another article I'm working on is just what Sean Strickland has endured and what he's gone through and how he's become who he is today. When you look at his story, and I'm not just talking about the terrible upbringing he had as a child and all the abuse and everything he had to go through. I'm talking about a guy who nearly lost his life, his career to a motorcycle accident. And then he comes back, and you're a sports fan outside of the fight world. How many times have you maybe had your emotions touched by a player who's been gone for so long? I think of one in the NFL. It's easy. Alex Smith. You're like, wow, this dude almost lost his leg. He came back. Like, this is beautiful. Damar Hamlin, even more recent, right? Like, wow, he stepped on the field a year after he died on the field, less than a year after he died on the field.
Right.
And that stuff, when it comes to fighting, though, you're like, man, I don't know if this guy should be fighting, but like, let's just see what happens. He's back. And that was almost the narrative following Sean Strickland around. Then he just started picking people off, and he just started winning and winning and winning. And we see what getting to the top does to so many people. Yeah, if I had gone through everything Sean Strickland has done, just like you said to start this, I'd have more than one screw loose. And I wouldn't give a shit what I said about anyone, to anyone, or anything, because I've almost had everything taken away from me since I was a kid. So it's weird because you're like, God, wow. It's like, it's not cringe Colby Covington, but it's like, damn, we all want to get you behind you, Sean. You're just the crazy guy at the college party who forgot to stop playing beer pong.
Right. And I don't know if Sean Strickland ever thought that he would get to the pinnacle of mixed martial arts and become a UFC champion. I feel like he probably didn't, and he just enjoyed fighting, because for Sean Strickland, he's at his most normal when he's getting into a fist fight in a cage. Whereas for 99.9% of the rest of the population, that would probably be the craziest thing they could ever do. And now he's here and he's become a UFC champion, and now the spotlight has been thrust onto him, and he's not this underdog anymore that, Sean Strickland's in there. Okay, great. No, Sean Strickland's your UFC middleweight champion. The spotlight is on him. We've seen him become more vulnerable in the last few weeks for sure, talking about his childhood and his upbringing and getting emotional. It's really interesting, honestly.
It's almost like how you've seen so many people go the wrong way when they reach the top. It's almost like you can see Strickland wants to just embrace and be there, but there's so many demons that are or skeletons that just are carried with him along the way. And it's like I would like to see the Sean Strickland reign last for a while because
True.
I would like to see what it makes Sean Strickland in 3 years from now. If we're talking about a guy who in 2026, 2027 is still champion, you're like, I don't know that we're having these same conversations.
Well, that's the thing. We're finding out more and more about him because he's the center of attention right now because he's the UFC middleweight champion. Typically, prior to him becoming champ, it'd be up. Sean Strickland did some crazy shit. He said something crazy, like who really, whatever. That's Sean Strickland. But now he's in the spotlight. We're paying more attention to him. He's opening up more and more. I too would like to see what a Sean Strickland reign would look like past one title defense. Because I also want to see, everyone always says, like, you're not champion until you defend your title once. I'm not in that same mindset for sure, but I am curious to see how Sean Strickland is this week in particular, fight week, how he is in the cage now that he's not in that underdog role anymore. He is your sitting champion. And should he defend his title, how he is afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing about what I think the craziest thing about Sean Strickland is he's so like his wires are different when he's outside the cage,
Yeah.
but when he's in the cage, it's like everything else is shut off. I mean, Alex Pereira aside, no one took the fight to Israel Adesanya. Maybe Kelvin Gastelum for a round or two, but for the entire fight, no one brought it to Izzy the way Sean Strickland did.
He beat
With
Izzy at
a
his own game.
yeah,
I actually couldn't envision a path for Sean Strickland to beat Israel Adesanya, and I know Eric Nixick said something along the lines of he's got to have his absolute best day, and Izzy's got to have a really, really bad night. And if there was any way I saw Sean Strickland beating Israel Adesanya, it was going to be a super boring, drawn out, Sean Strickland-esque fight, and he beat Israel Adesanya at his own game. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I still can't believe it. And we're sitting here days removed from his first title defense.
and it feels very weird that we're like talking about him as champion. It really
Yeah.
does. But also it feels weird to talk about a guy who's 20-2 in his opponent, Dricus Du Plessis, and we're talking about in the weirdest of weird ways because Colby Covington is still on the roster. We're talking about potentially a top 5 bad guy in the UFC. Not in like a he's a bad person or this, but like he is playing the villain role in a way, and like he didn't even walk back his comments. He said stuff about my coach, and I brought up some stuff. And it's not, see, the thing is, you have the Covington line, right? And then I believe I would say it's like the Covington line, McGregor, and then everybody else. But like DDP, he just doesn't care. And it's so weird because you want to just talk about the guy who ran through Robert Whitaker, who worked his way to the top, and this should be a very intriguing fight. But this almost, to me, Kelly, is like, careful what you ask for because you were messing with Israel Adesanya. Now you're messing with a guy who truly does not give a shit. Dude, I don't know if that's the right recipe to go at Sean Strickland with.
No, it's true. And I do think his role as a villain, or in WWE pro wrestling world, the heel, is getting overlooked because in a sense it's kind of been a battle of hypocrisies because Sean Strickland has said a lot of messed up stuff too. So people didn't feel as bad when Dricus Du Plessis said it because it's like, you know what, you've crossed the line. And I'm not saying I agree by any means, but a lot of people were of the mentality that, you know what, Sean, you've crossed that line before. Here's it coming back to you. And that's something that Ian Gary commented and said as well. And for Ian Gary, I mean, he's said a lot of really bad stuff too. So it just felt like a triangle of hypocrites kind of battling of who said what and where's the line that you can't cross. And it's just like, listen, why don't we all just sit here and say, you've all said things that are really messed up and have crossed the line. So for you to say it to each other, it didn't hold as much weight as when, Colby said what he said about Leon's father. That was just disgusting. And Leon Edwards isn't out here crossing lines. You know what I mean? It was much more
Right.
distinct.
It's like the bullies have been bullying each other, and now two of the bullies are gonna fight. And then we're
Right.
just gonna see like who has the most lunch money at the end of UFC
Exactly.
297.
It's like literally two bullies want to complain about getting bullied. And it's like, wait a second,
Yes.
you are in the driver's seat.
Right. Yeah.
Now we're mad.
But you know what? UFC 297 needed this. And,
Mhm.
looking at and talking about the main card, we'll make some picks here in a moment. But outside of the main event, you have the vacant Bantamweight Championship with Raquel Pennington and Myra Buena Silva. I mean, if you go down the card, I will go on I will make this stretch, and I will say one thing that I think could help Sean Strickland. You know how I am, Kelly. It's not all about X's and O's. I'm not the Luke Thomas or the Jimmy Smiths of the world. I look
Listen,
at
no
other
one
things, and
comes to me for X's and O's, so fire away.
I think Chris Curtis being on this card could be the best thing to happen to Sean Strickland come fight night. We're talking about two teammates, two very close friends, podcast partners, both striving for the same goal. They've been in the gym working together. Chris probably can talk to Sean in a way that maybe his coaches can't even talk to him, and vice versa. And when you know this better than most people, when two teammates can go to war together, I mean, there's no better feeling. So I honestly think with Chris Curtis being on this card, this could actually really help. Maybe not in a sense of motivate Sean Strickland, but kind of just keep that plane steady and focused on, maybe he doesn't get thrown off during fight week. Maybe there isn't an altercation at a press conference. And maybe that's because of Chris Curtis. So I might be stretching there, but I think it could be a good thing for him.
No, I don't think you're stretching at all. And I would say, Eric Nixick aside, Sean Strickland hasn't had a bigger advocate than he has in Chris Curtis. In every single interview Chris Curtis does, obviously, he's asked about Sean Strickland, one of his best friends, his teammate, his training partner. And Chris Curtis is always going to the defense of Sean, saying how great of a person he is. And he may say X, Y, and Z, and he may not have the best delivery, but at the end of the day, he is who he is. And he's a great person. So, like you said, I think having Chris Curtis there, and I'm sure he would have been there anyway, even if he wasn't fighting, but to have him alongside him in the training camp, training himself actually to try to get back in the winning column. I'm sure it's going to be a great thing for Sean. I think it'll probably ground him a lot. He has really good people around him. I'm not sure you could ask for better people than, Eric Nixick in particular.
Eric Nixick, Chris Curtis, Nina Drama. I mean, he's got he's got he's
What
got
more
this
could you ask for?
he's got the Holy Trinity. He's got the Holy Trinity. And you know what? I don't know your feelings on it, but I do just want to address it because I know it should be all over the place because it is a
Mhm.
Sean Strickland fight week. Good for her. Honestly, good for her. Like, I know you have the utmost respect for Megan O'Leary, Laura Sanko, and all the women that have kind of Karen Bryant that have trailblazed in the space of MMA for women. But like, also, this is 2024 now, and this is just what the world is. You get enough people to follow you on any social media, and somebody likes your stuff, and it may not be for everyone, you're going to get an opportunity. Now, it sucks for some people living in Chicago who just want to go to a damn event once in their life. How I digress. But, the thing with Nina Drama covering MMA, it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers so many people. And unfortunately, MMA is now getting, and some would say, no, it's been there, you just didn't notice it. It's getting to the point of NFL and NBA Twitter, or X, where any single thing that happens, 1,000 people they know better than everyone else. I know there's Twitter trolls and stuff like that, but if you look at you can make any NBA take. Like, I saw somebody in New York over the weekend tweet out that Jalen Brunson was questionable. And I saw people tweeting like, who the hell is this guy? How the hell does he know Jalen Brunson? And it's like, whoa,
Right.
whoa, dude. Like, chill out. And that's just my sidebar conversation on it. It's just chill out. Let everyone have a space.
I agree. I will say I don't love the direction in which MMA media is trending, but as far as Nina goes, content comes in all different forms, especially now in 2024. She's having a good time. Clearly, something's working. She's at all these events. She has a massive following. And whether you love her or you hate her, people are paying attention to her. And as a media member, I mean, that's all you could really want is for people to pay attention to your content. So all the power to her. I saw her out in Las Vegas for International Fight Week. I didn't say anything. We were both just at the convention center for
You
UFC
didn't square
X.
up? You didn't square up?
No.
Come
No, I
on.
don't get down like that.
No, it's just funny to me in this sport where the schmo came through, and no disrespect, but all the male fans are like, dude, the freaking schmo, I'm a fan. And then it's like, here's a female version. And I'm very defensive of women working in the sport, but it's
Of
like,
course.
hey, hey, you guys love the schmo. Let the girl have her fun. Like anyways, this card is filled with not the biggest of names, however, several fighters, especially from Canada, who it's going to be fun to watch. And so before we give picks on the main card, just bring up a couple of them. Jasmine, I suck at it. I suck at it.
Jazzavicius.
There you go. Yep, there you go. See, you're gonna say it. Someone's gonna say it. I'm not. I'm just gonna name some names here, and then we can dive into them.
Cool.
Jillian Robertson, obviously, Charles Jourdain, Brad Katona. I mean, there's just four. There's more. There's Sirius City, Johan Lanise, like there. Malcolm Gordon opening up the card. He fights out of Canada. There's so many good Canadian fighters on this card. And it finally feels like, and we're not even talking about the main card yet, but it finally feels like, and I hate that I even have to say this, that we're going back to pre-2020 events. Like, hey, we're bringing a card to Canada.
Right.
Here's all your Canadian fighters. We're not looking for the first 5 or 10 fighters who want to sign up to go travel and fight somewhere, which is what a lot of 2021, 2022, and even to an extent 2023 was. It didn't feel like we were packing stadiums or arenas and we weren't getting all the right fighters in the right places. It's my side note of petitioning no more Apex shows. And
Not there
like,
yet. We are not there.
but this is good business for the UFC because you want to especially bring back that home crowd. You want to bring, hey, listen, hey, Toronto, don't get up for Alex Pereira. Like, we have enough Brazilians to come watch Alex Pereira no matter where we put him. Let's get everyone out for the Canadian fighters.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, especially the prelims, this card is definitely tailored to that Canadian fan base. And there are a lot of really good fights on there. It may not have the best name value, but we all know this, the people who are watching the cards every weekend. More often than not, it's the cards that you anticipate missing that have the best fights. And I keep going back to UFC 296 just a couple weeks ago. That was stacked top to bottom, and I didn't think the main card ended up being awesome. You know what I mean?
No, it did
So
not. It did not.
just because it's good on paper doesn't mean it's going to be great on your television. So I'm excited to tune into this one. Actually, starting today, because I was getting myself prepared to hang out with you, I started looking into the card more, watching some videos, and I'm getting more excited as the days roll on for sure.
You're welcome, America. This podcast was able to get Kelly. I do like how she framed that though, because we haven't seen each other in like 2.5 years. She's like, to hang out with you. I mean, it's fine. I mean, we're over the virtual Zoom hangouts, but I'll take it. I'll
Yeah,
take it. I'm
like
not
we're
coming
just
back to
hanging
the East Coast
out.
anytime. I'm not coming back to the East Coast anytime soon. So I will take a Zoom hangout with Kelly Murphy
Oh
any
yeah.
single day of the week. Let's get into the main card though. A
All right.
huge pay-per-view opening fight. Arnold Allen against Movsar Evloev. I don't even know. Like, I don't even know. I want to say Arnold Allen. I really do. I think when you talk about this card being a great card because it doesn't look that great on paper, these are the matchups you're talking about, right? Where everyone's like,
Mhm.
I don't really know these two. And I think this fight's going to be a war. I think for pick's sake, I'm going to go Arnold Allen. I mean, his last loss is Max Holloway in his last fight. He was on a roll before then, and not many people are beating Max Holloway. So I like Arnold Allen against the undefeated opponent.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And just looking at both of their previous opponents, Arnold Allen definitely has the strength of schedule advantage. Like you said, he's coming off the loss to Max Holloway, but sometimes coming off a loss, you could be extra motivated. More often than not, that is how you are. And almost everybody at 145 pounds takes the step up to Max Holloway and takes the step right back down. So I can't say that I hold that against him. And Movsar Evloev has definitely been impressive. It's hard to say otherwise when you're talking about an undefeated fighter, but I was definitely left with some questions after his last fight with UFC newcomer Diego Lopez, who took that fight on short notice. And again, maybe Diego Lopez is just better than we all thought he was going to be coming into the UFC, and I'm sure he is because he's been great since that fight. But I will say I was expecting Movsar to kind of walk all over him. He was preparing for a fight and he was preparing for a better opponent on paper. So that just left me not completely sold on Movsar just yet. Should he beat Arnold Allen this weekend? I think I'll jump on the train, but I'm going to have to go with Arnold Allen myself.
And when you look at the records, I mean, we're talking about Mozart. Yeah, great. I mean, undefeated. But every single fight inside the UFC has gone the distance.
Yeah, he doesn't have
I
that
don't,
flavor.
yeah, no, exactly. And I think, and I do truly believe this, I think sometimes when you fight the absolute best of the best, not only do you win or lose, but you take away from that, obviously. But I think the good fighters become better after facing the best of the best. And Arnold Allen, I mean, was on a tear, ran into Max Holloway, who I'll again say maybe it's not Volkanovski outside of him. I don't know many people, and I don't have faith that there are many fighters, including the freaking uprising Josh Emmett once again. I don't know that Josh Emmett can beat him. You know how he could beat him, but I don't believe Max Holloway can get beat by anyone other than Alex Volkanovski right now. So, to Arnold Allen's credit, we're talking about a guy who gets finishes, who's put on a great resume so far. I just can't take him over a guy who's only fought to decision. Again, I can't take him losing to a guy who's only fought decisions in his UFC tenure.
I agree. And like you said, when you fight the greats and Max Holloway, one of the greatest 145 pounders of all time, even if you lose, you take something away from it. And you can tell, same thing happened to Calvin Kattar. He ran into Max Holloway. He took a beating. He comes back, fights Kika Chikadze, who nobody wanted to fight and looked fantastic. Yair Rodriguez runs into Max Holloway. They put on a fight of the night, but he takes a loss. He wins back to back against Brian Ortega and Josh Emmett. And one of those fights was for the interim featherweight championship. So it feels like guys are running into him, getting stopped because it's Max Holloway. Everyone gets stopped by him other than Alexander Volkanovski, and then finding themselves back on track in their next fight. And what I like is that Arnold Allen took some time since then. It's been 7 months or so since he fought Max. So I
Yeah,
think he took the proper time away to even just get himself right mentally again. Because I think sometimes people try to force something after a loss and come back too fast. So I like Arnold here.
moving on with the already mentioned Curtis taking on Marc-Andre Barriou. I mean, this is an interesting one because all things considered, you wanted to say this should be Chris Curtis's fight,
Mhm.
but I mean, Marc-Andre's got 10 wins by KO, TKO, and Chris Curtis is a veteran. So it's almost like, is Chris Curtis here to stay? Or is there someone new continuing to rise up the ranks? I don't have a pick yet, so I'll let you go first.
What's funny is when I saw this matchup, I could have sworn these two fought already. And clearly I'm going insane because they have not. But like you said, I feel like a lot of the time, Marc Andre Barrio gets himself into a fight where I'm like, okay, his opponent's gonna win. And then he ends up being more competitive than I thought or winning. And he's on a 2-fight win streak here. Julian Marquez, Eric Anders. Prior to that, lost to Anthony Hernandez. I just don't think, and I do this every time, so I feel like it's going to bite me in the ass, but I don't think it's a good matchup for him. Chris Curtis is fast. Marc Andre Barrio is not. He lacks hand speed for sure. I just feel like Chris Curtis is going to be able to get himself in and pull out very quickly and get himself in and out and control the pace. Yeah, I
I
don't
think we're
think it's
gonna. I think 2024 starts like 2023. We do a podcast on the first pay-per-view. We agree on most of the fights, and then we're probably not gonna talk for 10 months. But
yeah,
outside of
exactly.
that, I mean, outside of that, well, I think we're off to a good start.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna
like
go
Chris
Chris
Curtis
Curtis as
here.
yeah, I think I do too. And I'm gonna go back to my stretch and say I think sometimes you just feel if you remember that epic night, I forget probably I think it was now 2 years ago, where City Kickboxing was featured on the card and they just handled the night. City Kickboxing, they
Hmm.
had their night. And I just feel like Extreme Couture, Sean Strickland, Chris Curtis, Eric Nixick, I just feel like they're taking over Canada. And
There's going to be something in the air for these guys. I feel it. And Marc-Andre Barrio is typically a slow starter. And I think Chris Curtis can capitalize on that.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, he's going to have to. Um, we'll see. So I'm going Chris Curtis, Neil Magny, Mike
Huh.
Malott. I mean, now this one's tough. I'm a big Mike Malott fan, but I'm also a very big Neil Magny fan. And honestly, no one should have an FU tour more than Neil Magny in 2024.
Because everyone's
Like,
trying to shit on him. I feel like everyone picks up a big win and then they're like, we want Neil Magny. I'm like, can everyone just leave Neil Magny alone? Like, he's done what he's needed to do. He's never bothered anybody. He dealt with shit from Ian Machado Gary. Like, leave Neil alone, okay?
like the
I'm
worst of
starting to get
shit
sick
too.
of it.
Yeah, you're not wrong though. We're talking about a guy who was accused of some of the worst things a man especially could be accused of it from Ian Gary. And it's like, yo, we're talking about a guy who has set records in the sport inside the UFC. He is a veteran, a guy who's a good representation of this sport, of the UFC, a good representative, and everyone just wants to fight him. It's a compliment to Neil Magny,
For
but
sure.
it also might speak to the credit and talent and skill level of Mike Malott because it's like if you got I don't think here's the crazy thing about this fight. I don't think or know if the UFC will ever be off the Neil Magny train because as you said, so many people want to fight him. So it's like, all right, Neil, just keep doing your thing or insert Mike Malott or the next five fighters who call out Neil Magny. Let us see what you got.
Well, and I mean this it's going to sound bad, and I mean it in the nicest way possible. Neil Magny is the most fantastic stepping stone in that division because he's a tough out. He is a tough guy, has a lot of wins. Like you said, he has a lot of records in his division. He just, every time he fights that step up guy, he loses. So he becomes the ultimate stepping stone for somebody who's trying to break into the upper echelon. And I don't think and like I just said, tough out, but I don't think the UFC wants Mike Malott to lose in Canada.
No, no, they don't. And to Neil's credit, he's not just gonna lay down.
No,
Like
of
you said,
course
that's why.
not. But that's why
It,
everybody calls him out because if they can beat him, they know they can move into that upper echelon.
exactly. All right. I feel like you're gonna struggle with this one, or maybe not. I mean, that was a strong Neil Magny defense. I felt like you
I
could have
love
done
Neil
like a whole.
Magny.
I mean,
He's a
listen,
nice man, and I'm sick of it. Like, I'm like, just let the why can't he pick one of his fights?
not yet. Not only that, because it is kind of redundant. Every single fighter at 170, they get close to that top 15. They're like Neil Magny. You're like, wait, they're like, Neil's fighting in the cage right now. Yeah, yeah. When he's done, I want him next. Like, wait, can you? There's nobody else? Nope, just Neil Magny. But honestly, because of that and because of everything he went through with the Ian Gary fight, like
Yeah.
he really should just be on an FU tour. Oh, you're young and upcoming, and look, no better way to get it started than against in Canada against the Canadian. So it's gonna be an interesting one. Who do you got?
Unfortunately, I don't think he gets it started in Canada, and that's why I'm so damn mad because he just came off this Ian Machado Gary fight where that really rubbed me the wrong way, and I know it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but I do think this is Mike Malott's fight to lose, and I think he'll be successful. I do think it'll be a tough fight. Neil Magny always puts on a tough fight, whether he wins or loses, but I do think Mike Malott wins this one.
Just for argument's sake, I'm gonna, or because I've never seen. That's like you were just like a lawyer in court defending your client, and you're like,
Justice for Neil.
but he's probably guilty. You're like, hold on, this is every reason why I'm here, but he's probably guilty.
Well, that's why
Sorry.
I don't like this fight because I think it's set up for Mike Malott to win and get a tough win, which is a good thing for him. But I'm just like, you know what? There's not a lot more Neil Magny could do, and I'm really sick of him being put in these positions.
I
I
love this is my favorite way to start 2024. The Kelly Murphy first team all pro team defense on Neil Magny. I absolutely love it.
hashtag justice for Neil Magny.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Co-main event, I feel like it's an overwhelming favorite for Myra Bueno Silva taking on Raquel Pennington. But that might sound crazy. If Rocky is on, like if she is, I've always said if she's just locked in, if she's just prepared to be there, I don't know that there's a tougher fight in the division. And she's currently riding a 5-fight win streak. So as good as Silva has been, I'm not gonna give my pick away yet, but I don't sleep on Rocky in this fight, is all I'm saying.
No, Raquel's game, and that's why she's in this position. They wouldn't have put her there if not. Like you said, she's on a 5-fight win streak. She is durable. It's just, I think her time has come and gone. Myra Bueno Silva is nasty. Like, ugh, she makes these fights dirty. She is fun to watch. I actually loved what she said last week. She's like, "Yeah, I know no one wants to watch this fight." And I was like, "You know what? I actually like that you're one half of it and you can recognize that because your job is to go out there and make people interested in the women's bantamweight division again." It's been how long since we've seen a women's bantamweight title fight that didn't feature Amanda Nunes? So, we have no marquee person that we wanna see. Usually, we were tuning into these fights to watch Amanda catch another body, and
Right, right.
now we don't have that. So it's someone's job in this fight to go out there and make us care about the women's bantamweight division again. And I really do think Myra Buena Silva can do that. She is 30, and I actually do really enjoy watching her fight.
Yeah, I think everyone expects if she does get this, and I hate this cliche so much, but we know Rocky will stand and trade with anyone.
Of
We also
course.
know that Myra Buena Silva wants to get this fight to the ground, and it could be a master class if she does get it there. But then what if she doesn't? That's always the fun part, right? We've always said that. What if she doesn't get it there? And for Raquel Pennington, that's where it's got to be for her in this fight. And obviously, right? That goes without saying, but I
But you
I
don't
don't
think
know.
Raquel would score a finish on the feet? You think she'd outpoint her to a decision?
You really gonna make me answer
I mean, I so
that? No,
genuinely, even if I put my best glasses on, couldn't see a world where Raquel Pennington finishes
no. I
either
mean,
of her
listen,
feet.
I will always hold open a 2% door possibility of, hey,
Sure.
listen, if the right shot lands, you never know.
Right, that's the game
But
we're in.
no, yeah, yeah. But is it a yeah? No, I absolutely have 100% confidence that she could finish
Sure.
her on the feet. Absolutely not. I will say again, if Raquel Pennington mentally is on, she is just as we talked about Neil Magny, one of the toughest outs in the women's
Definitely.
bantamweight division. Do I see her finishing her? No, I don't. Could I see her outpointing her? Yes, because every round starts on the feet. And if Silva can't get it there because Rocky is just too damn hard headed to let it get there, I think it's an interesting. Here's the thing: if it goes to the ground, I think Silva takes it quick, easy, simple. All right,
Me
we all
too.
knew it.
Me
We
too.
all knew that was coming.
What is
But
Raquel's takedown defense like?
you're gonna make me look this up. I don't
I'm
have
gonna look it up.
producers here. I don't have producers here, so I just
Hold
do
on.
everything on
Hold. I
my.
know. I'm used to doing this anyway. Let's see.
I'm I was
Raquel
actually looking at.
Pennington takedown defense is 63%.
It's not horrible, but
It's
it's
not
not
horrible, but I just
90%.
don't think it's where it needs to be
No, no,
in
not for
this
the,
fight.
especially not for this fight, especially not for this fight. But I think everyone knows how this fight could, should, and possibly will play out. But how do you see it playing out?
I think, gosh, it's like you said, it's just tough because of that one wrinkle in the fold about how game Raquel is. But I do think Myra Buena Silva gets this to the ground and makes it look easy from there. I want to say in the second round. I think it'll be a kind of feeling out phase in round one. Maybe I don't think either lady will be as aggressive, but I do think round 2 submission for Myra Bueno Silva.
I got the full prediction on this. That's why I love
Mhm.
having you. That's why I love having you, because you always surprise me. You always surprise me. You're like, all right, I'll pick some winners, and then at the end of it, I'm gonna towards the main event and co-main, I'm gonna start giving you real winners. Second round submission. I love it. I'm gonna stick to my guns here because I don't know. I don't know. It's just I just have a feeling. And
Okay.
you could text me on Saturday and be like, "You idiot. Stop. Maybe start covering soccer or tennis. Don't do this anymore." I just have a feeling, and I think Raquel Pennington could walk out of there new women's bantamweight champion. And listen, I'll take it a
I
step
don't think
further.
though, even if that happens, she's just not the person anymore to get us excited for that division, you
Yeah,
know?
but that was my next point. Juliana Pena sitting there.
Yeah, I mean,
And
Pena will get in there next, first the winner.
yeah, no, she will. And the thing is, I love that matchup for Pena if Raquel wins the belt. Like
Definitely.
so for me, it's like I think there might be a more intriguing matchup against Silva. But if we're all waiting for Juliana Pena to come reclaim her throne, she should be looking at Raquel Pennington to win this fight because I think it
Definitely.
sets up perfect, especially when you have two veterans like them two in Pennington and Pena. But I'm gonna stick with Pennington. It's probably wrong, but
We'll
I don't know.
see.
I have some faith here. And we didn't mention this earlier, but it's very, very well played by the UFC. Well played because over in America, we have crazy events that happen every single day where the rest of the world looks at us and goes, wow, that country's fucked up. And most of those people can relate to Sean Strickland. But here he comes on his horse and an AR-15 in hand and his MMA gloves wrapped up, and he's going to defend his middleweight title against Dricus Du Plessis. And I don't know if Canada will cheer louder for anyone besides their own fighter than Sean Strickland himself. He just seems to be coming, as much as you're like, oh God, what is Sean going to say? What is Sean going to say? I think we're getting close to the point of, yeah, we don't give a shit what Sean says. And he's not going to McGregor one line anybody or Nate Diaz one line anybody. He's just going to be a true American man, badass. Like, and
The
that's
thing, I
just
don't think he's trying to be somebody he's not. Like, whether you love him
right.
or hate him, what he's doing is authentic and genuine, and this is just the person that he is. Whereas with a Colby Covington, who maybe deep down is an asshole, but he's certainly trying to be one. Whereas Sean, whether you agree or disagree with what he says, whether you love him or you hate him, that is just who he is as a person.
Yeah, and I don't think he'll ever change. But such a beautiful representative of the United States to send to Canada, like Sean Strickland. And if you're like, send me an American, Sean Strickland's one of the top 5 I'm sending to go into Canada. Oh, you want to learn about combat? Yeah. I'm not sending
Get Bryce
you.
Mitchell on there
Yeah,
if he's
Bryce
recovered.
Mitchell is what. Yes. If you need someone out in the field, I've got Bryce Mitchell and I've got Sean Strickland. Hi,
You'll
Canada.
be
This is
just
America.
fine.
You'll be
You will
just
be
fine.
just fine with these two.
Um, we talked about this fight at nauseum already. I said it and I alluded to it earlier. I want to see the reign of Sean Strickland as as big of a fan of Israel Adesanya, the person that I am. I would even like to see Sean Strickland defend his title a second time or defend his title against Adesanya if they ran it back. So I'm taking Sean Strickland in here. I do have some hesitation if the fight gets to the ground, but I also had some hesitation of like Sean Strickland's not going to go first. We all give Colby Covington credit while puking in our mouth because of his cardio and his pressure ability. I think Sean Strickland does it even better. And
Absolutely.
I just don't see Sean Strickland getting thrown off the horse anytime soon. So I'm taking Sean Strickland.
Yeah, I agree. When this fight was first announced, I was a little more 50-50, and now that it's getting closer, I'm definitely heavily leaning towards Sean Strickland. And you talk about this fight going to the ground, and in the middleweight division, you can't keep him down. He's got the second least time spent on his back in the entire division. and he's just never on his back or taken down really. I think it's gonna come down to who can control the space, and I think Sean Strickland is great with pressure. And I do think Drake is Duplessis' biggest X factor is gonna be himself and the cardio. Sean Strickland's been in a bunch of 5-round fights. He just went 5 rounds with Israel Adesanya, of all people. Dricus Du Plessis never been in a 5-round fight. I think he's gonna come out hot, and if Sean Strickland can weather that storm and be smart, and we've seen him be smart, like I just said, most recently against one of the smartest MMA fighters of all time in Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland outfought him with his own game. If Sean Strickland can just be smart, weather that early storm from Dricus Du Plessis, I do think Dracus is going to wear himself out, and Sean Strickland will be able to capitalize on that. I hope I'm not wrong because I said the same thing about Khalil Roundtree against Anthony Smith. I was like, if you can just weather that storm early, he's going to drown himself, and he didn't. So I think I'm going to be right here because I think Dracus is going to come in super confident, come out hot, and I think he's going to wear himself out pretty early.
Yeah, so for me, another big thing for it is the mental aspect. And I agree with everything you just said, but the mental aspect of it all, what happens when Sean Strickland starts talking and
Hmm.
Dricus is just trying to get his breath back, like you said, or whatever the case may be. When Sean and it may not even be talking, it may just be Dricus thinks there's a 5 second, pause in the action, or he's got an opportunity to catch his breath, and then Sean Strickland's right there, and he's right there. But I will tell you this for Kelly, who obviously knows this, and anyone who watches this should know come Saturday, the moment you hear Sean Strickland go, come on, like that's it. Like I just cash your tickets on your way out because given everything that has led up into this fight, and listen, we're recording this on Tuesday. It'll drop this week. So we don't know what's gonna happen Thursday night. A
Sure.
lot of things could change when they meet face to face. But if he is the Sean Strickland that was the same, and I believe he will be, if not better, against Israel Adesanya, you add in that extra emotion, that fight could just purely be one off mental state. You could talk about the cardio and all that, and that obviously plays a major factor in it. But I don't. You got to be strong, and I don't know if Dricus Du Plessis, he might be physically as talented as everyone in the top five, but there's something about Israel Adesanya shooting bow and arrows at Alex Pereira while he's knocked out. Sean Strickland just yelling at everyone, not letting them move. I mean, I don't know. I think that's going to be where things could get really bad for Dricus is if Sean starts to get into a groove, starts to feel himself a little bit. I think it's a long night, and really, I would want as someone who's going to pick Sean Strickland in this fight, I would like to see Sean Strickland kind of drag this fight out. I don't know that anyone's expecting a first round KO, but I think that's the beauty of Sean Strickland is his fights get more beautiful the longer they go. And so I'm gonna take Sean Strickland as well. And I think it's probably gonna go to the distance unless, like you said, Duplessis he gasses out. But I don't really see a path to victory for him.
Yeah, I agree, and it's usually depends on Strickland's caliber of opponent, but usually when he's at his best is in these long, dragged out, grueling wars that he puts himself in, and I think this could certainly be that. I just hope because with Strickland, it concerns me. I just hope he's not fighting off emotion because I keep going back to UFC 296, and when Colby Covington said the things that he said about Leon Edwards' father, horrible. And a lot of people were saying, hopefully Leon doesn't go in there overly emotional and make a mistake. But that was never a concern for me. Leon Edwards is the utmost professional. I had no concern about that. Sean Strickland, on the other hand, I can't say the same. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but even when he fought Alex Pereira, he fought himself and he got knocked out. He fought with his ego. And I don't want him to do any of that. If he just goes in there smart, stays tactical like he did against Israel Adesanya, I think he will be just fine. But like you said, we're recording this conversation on a Tuesday. A lot could happen. A lot will happen. And not a lot can, a
Yeah.
lot will happen, I'm sure, between now and Saturday night, especially Thursday night at the presser. So even if it goes down Thursday, I'm hoping Chris Curtis, like we talked about earlier, and Eric Nixick can kind of keep Sean Strickland grounded have him go in there smart and just do what he needs to do. And I agree. I think Strickland gets this done by decision.
You're always so great with your time, but I'm not gonna let you go just yet. And I thank you for giving me your time. What
Sure.
has been going on in the world of Kelly Murphy?
Literally nothing. All I do is work. It quite certainly feels like. Took some time off for the holidays, but I didn't even do anything. I ended up working the first week because I was getting guests for the
Of course.
shows and things of that nature. But oh, I just got an apartment in Westchester, New York. So I'll be moving in the next week or so, actually, which is nice. I did the whole
Good
New York
luck.
City
Good
thing
luck.
and I hated it. So got myself out of there pretty fast.
Right?
So I'm pumped about that, but it's kind of full steam ahead with work right now. Fights are back, and like I said, producing a fight show is always a lot easier when fights are happening. So
Absolutely. Let
back in the
everyone
swing of
oh
things.
before I let you go, have you plug everything? Have you gotten a chance, because it's gonna be all over my social media this week? Have you gotten a chance to check out Frankie Edgar in his first movie role?
I have not. I Where can I find this movie? What's the deal?
So it's Amazon Prime and like all the ones like Apple TV where you can like rent or buy. But listen, it's an independent film.
Okay.
Had the actor on, the director had Frankie on. Um, it is a independent film, is what I will say. But the storyline fits Kelly Murphy to a T.
I'm
To a
pumped.
T. Like, there's two people I know who talk about The Sopranos the most.
Oh,
You and Jared Gordon. And like, oh, surprise, they're both from New York.
The
Nah, I
Sopranos is
don't.
the best. I was actually gonna say all I've really been doing is rewatching The Sopranos.
Yeah, and so this is. So I said it 5 minutes into the movie, and then I went online and I looked at some film reviews, and like some website had the same comment I had. This movie called The Bastard Sons with Frankie Edgar and Kevin Interdonato is literally Four Brothers meets The Sopranos.
Oh, I love Four Brothers too.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
love Frankie Edgar, so this
I'm
sounds
li-
fantastic.
I'm literally yelling at everyone. I'm like, Have you like the movie The Town, The Sopranos? Have you like Four Brothers? Like any of those like movies? You liked it? Okay, The Bastard Sons,
I have
and
to watch it. Oh my god. It's
dude,
literally three of my favorite things. Frankie Edgar, Four Brothers, and The Sopranos. Come on.
and literally when you watch it, I guarantee you, if you tell me you'll watch it, I will set a timer on my phone. It's about an hour and a half. I will set a timer on my phone because in the last 10 minutes, when the movie flips you on your head, I'm gonna be waiting for that text. Because
No,
you think you
once
know how
I
everything goes.
sit down and watch it, I'm gonna text you.
It's so good. And it's not me just doing publicity work for them because I like those two
Oh.
guys. It's one of those movies where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give it a shot. And I probably have watched it at least every other day since I got
Oh
it.
my
Like
god. I'm so
the way
excited.
you like continuously go back and watch The Sopranos, like that's how I've gone back and watched this movie. And I know where everything's gonna happen. I'm like, and I'm still shocked every single time.
See, that's how you know
Every
it's a
single
good
time.
movie when you can rewatch it countless times in a short period of time
Yes.
and not get
Yes.
bored.
Yes.
I'm pumped.
And also to their credit, they're not like most movies where like George St. Pierre in the Marvel movies was just a bad guy fighting people. Frankie
Right.
did no MMA like fighting or
He
fist
was
fighting
probably
at
like,
all.
thank God. Like, I'm
He
done.
yeah, actually he was. He was like, I just get to I'm like, dude, you're shooting guns. He's like, I know it's a little it was a little more fun.
That's
Like,
awesome. I'm so
I
excited
mean,
for him. That really is so cool. I
and
can't believe this is his first movie?
his first movie which makes this even better. This is gonna be hysterical to you. Not only did he get in it, but the good old Roger Matthews is also in the movie.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, well, they have a podcast, the Champ and the Tramp. They've been friends for like years. You got
Unbelievable.
as I told Kevin, I said you did the perfect casting for Roger Matthews as a big bad guy with all the tattoos as part of a crime, group. And then you took the MMA fighter and you made him shoot guns. I was like, so it was like you did one total opposite cast, and then you did a perfect casting for Roger Matthews. Like it's fun.
It was probably
So
such a nice change of pace for Frankie.
yeah, he's like, I don't have to beat anybody up or act like I'm fighting. I don't have to do takedowns or anything like that. Just shooting guns, man. Just shooting guns. But yeah, so especially you, there's not many like more there's no one else I'd rather tell about this movie more.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
Jimmy Smith. Be like, Jimmy, you need to watch this.
I
Again,
literally am gonna watch it this week. I need something to watch. So
it's so fun. It's very, very fun and it's entertaining. I think you'll love it. Tell everyone where they can find you on Sirius XM.
all right, Sirius XM. Mondays and Fridays now. I'm actually working on Busted Open, the pro wrestling show, the number one show in the sports department. They are on from 9 to noon Eastern. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I am on MMA Today with a fantastic slew of hosts like Anthony Smith, Dean Thomas, RJ Clifford, Angela Hill, and Alan Joban. That is from 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, that's where I am on the radio.
Congrats to you and Busted Open on
Mhm.
all that success. Are we positive Dean Thomas is allowed in Canada?
We're gonna find out. Last time I talked to him, he was on the plane.
I'm gonna before you go, I'm gonna pick a bone with you. Why? Can you leave him alone? We
What
talked about it. I sent you the clip. Every single time that man makes a mistake, he said it on this show. You're treating him like Joe Biden.
He's not safe with me. He's just
That,
not.
but
He
that,
needs to stay on his toes. He needs to be humbled. This is a man with 100 different jobs, and he needs to know he's not safe with me. If he slips up, everyone's gonna hear about it.
and everyone watching this, obviously follow Kelly. And this is all the disclaimer. Follow Kelly on social media, support her work. Don't be creepy. All right. That's
Please
always a
don't.
disclaimer. Please don't be creepy. And also to everyone watching and listening, I everything she just said about Dean Thomas, I tried to be that guy. After I got rid of the new guy after a few months and I went through all the new guy hazing, I always try to be like, Kelly, you're phrasing. And I would always do it post production in the office. And one time I got the Kelly Murphy, born in New York, just straight Murphy attitude. I got the fuck off. And I was like, that's it. Never doing it again. Never doing it again.
Then you know, like not to cross
I
me anymore.
I literally was like, all right. And I went to work the next week, just holding my sides. I held on to my wallet. Like I was just making sure. So I wasn't safe. Dean Thomas isn't safe. I'm sorry. I tried. I tried. I
No,
really,
no, no one's safe.
no one is safe with Kelly Murphy, but MMA is better with you working in it. And I think we got a lot to look forward to. We just got the PFL versus Bellator card released
Awesome.
today. It's so great. How great
It's
is Clay
so
Collard against AJ McKee?
it,
Honestly.
it's just a lot of fights I didn't know that I needed, and now that I've seen them, I can't live without them.
Yep. Yep.
I'm really, really pumped. I've got my eyes all over Johnny Eblin and Pakisagane. The only little disappointment I have is no Patchy Mix. I love
Huh?
watching that dude fight, but
I don't
really, I
know.
don't
I don't
think
know
the
if you can.
promotion's
I don't
gonna
know if you can
put.
find anyone to fight him. Honestly, I don't know if you can find that many people who want to fight Patrick Mix right
I
now.
know, I know. It seemed like Johnny Eblin had some options if it wasn't Impa and Dark Brunson threw his name in the hat. But there was never any talks about Patchy, which sucks. But other than that, and the obvious of no Francis, I think it's the best card that these promotions could have put together, top to bottom. I'm really looking forward to it.
I agree. Last question here for you. UFC 300 main event prediction. Who is it?
I think it will be Israel Adesanya versus the winner of the middleweight title fight this weekend.
All right. All right. I don't have one. I don't have a fight
I just
because
don't
I
know if
we're
there's any other way they could go. Maybe Alex Pereira versus, I
not
mean,
interested.
that's
Not
my
it
thing.
for
And
for
everybody loves Izzy. He's a huge name, one of the biggest names in the promotion right now. I don't know if there's another direction they could go. As long as whoever comes out of this fight this weekend isn't hurt, I think Izzy would make himself available.
I mean, unless Nate Diaz wants to open up.
I mean,
I
I'll
mean,
take
I'm
the
just
eagle
saying
day.
I
I'd pay
mean,
the
I'm just
$80 to just watch Nate
yeah,
stand
I'm
there.
just saying. Yeah, yeah. I don't think I told you. I'll tell you off air. I did have my first interaction with Nate Diaz at the last Bellator show in Chicago in November. Perfect Nate Diaz. Everything I thought Nate Diaz was, he is.
Came to life.
And yeah, it was it was the saying of never meet your heroes, but absolutely meet Nate Diaz because he is exactly what you thought he would be.
That makes
Kelly
me, of
Murphy, it was great. Um, just as you are, you're so great. And thank you for giving me so much time today.
course.
Thank you for finally coming back on.
I know.
I appreciate it. I will have my people pay you off camera. I will make sure that next time I go through the proper channels, I'll give you 6 months notice. We'll make sure to get this right. I gotta get this right. I gotta get this right. But in all
No, we
seriousness,
did it. I'm so happy we worked this one out. I mean, like we said, not the best pay-per-view on paper, but usually those are the ones that end up being the best. And this podcast got me looking forward to it again because I actually did my research today. So thank you for having me.
thank you. Again, follow Kelly Murphy on social media. Listen to her Mondays and Fridays on Busted Open, and then on MMA Today, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You're kicking ass. You're working your ass off. Super happy for you. Super proud of you. Keep it up. Can't wait to see what this year has for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.